Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round Interview Show. Now, today, our guest is a hero to many, a history maker, a former coach of mine, which hopefully we're not going to get too much tied up in what it was like to coach me. Person who was basically, its job it was when he was coaching me to try and stop me from coming here to Australia. A fighter. A person that doesn't like the fanfare, but there's going to be plenty coming. None other, fresh from the street named after him, Royce Simmons.
What do you mean the street, mate? It's the whole building. It's not only the street. That's why I didn't want to send you the address of where I live. I knew it was going to be a problem, but it is the whole building. So you know that anyway, because you're just waiting to set me up. So,
well, when you got chauffeur driven in, I needed to know where to pick you up from, and you were reluctant to text it to me.
Very reluctant. I knew this is where we'd go.
You don't like,
and a cafe too, by the way. If you're going to get me, you may as well go the whole way. And a cafe.
Do you ever pay for food in the cafe?
Yeah, I do. Can you put a bit of a plug in on that?
Yeah. Well, mate, last time we went,
I live there. I don't own it, mate. Get me right. I don't own.
Just, do you know? I was there with you when I caught up with you, and this young lady on the till obviously didn't know who you were. And when we went, you just walked off with the food, and she said, "Oh, excuse me," and you just pointed to.
I can't remember that bit, but anyway, I have got dementia, so I can't. So you got me. You're playing that part, mate. Picking on a bloke with dementia. Anyway, carry on, mate. Carry on.
Okay.
You enjoy that victory.
How are you, Royce?
Good, mate. I'm going good. Flying.
Good. A lot of travelling going on recently. Back from England.
Oh, it was tremendous going back over to England. I had to go over there for obviously the Penrith game over there, and it was good. At work, they've been saying to me for quite a while, "You got to take your holidays. So I'm flying back over to England anyway to go for that thing. So I decided to take my holidays. I took some at the start and some at the back of the around the game, and flew into Manchester, got straight on a train and went down to Hull and caught up with all my old mates down there and said good day to them. Went to a Hull FC, Hull KR game. You know what they're like.
Yeah.
Belt the crap out of each other. But they had a table there set up for me with a lot of the old players and a lot of them, the young blokes, were the blokes who made their debut when you were there. So it was great to catch up with them, and run into a couple of the old players too. So it was blokes like Johnny Sharp and Russ Walker.
Oh yeah,
that you know.
Yes, very well.
And some of the younger blokes, Rob Danby and Andy Dearlove and Jez Cassidy and a few of them younger blokes too that I was lucky enough that they made their debut there. I really enjoyed my time at Hull. I had 2 great years there. I don't think I knew what I was doing, but anyway, I bluffed my way through it.
And then you went over across to St Helens as well, caught up with Wello and Robes, and
that's right. So then went up to Manchester to the game, and stayed, there for about 9 days, showing the sponsors around, going to various events and so on. And obviously the highlight was the game. I went to one of them bloody soccer games too while I was over there. I'm not much of a fan on them.
You don't like it?
No.
Not as much action.
No, it was.
The atmosphere is pretty good though.
It was Manchester City played Chelsea, I think it was.
Oh yeah. Didn't fancy it?
No.
Why'd you go?
I had to. It was part of work. Got to do what you're told, mate. So I went there anyway. I'll get killed by about 100 soccer fans now. Won't be able to walk up the street. But, no, it's a bit, I don't know, I don't know. It's where you're brought up, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not bad thing to do for quote unquote work.
I do like the atmosphere at them, they're fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, they know how to generate an atmosphere.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
Royce, just on your diagnosis, what does life look like now? Has much changed? I guess, you know, when you're personally receiving that information, obviously very difficult to swallow. I guess the public perception would, I don't know, like a little bit of mystery. Like what does life actually look like? Because you're still working, you're still living.
Yeah, you know, I can feel myself starting to go, if that's a good word. I can feel, getting up, waking up in the morning and say, what did I do yesterday? And taking about an hour before you sort of get around what you did yesterday. And all them sort of things, or just sort of, a blank sort of just forget about what you're talking about, whatever, But I haven't had too much of a drop yet. I've been, I'm on medication to slow things down. And so, they say you should do a lot of exercise. So I get up most mornings and walk for about 3-4 hours. I just try to do, take your medication, try to do anything. If I hear any bits of things that say this helps, I go and do it, So I'm 100 mile an hour all the time trying to slow things up and prevent things.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm working really hard on that. And one of them is going to work and mixing with people and all that. So, I make sure, like especially if you're taking some sponsors away or doing that, that's great. You get to talk to people and mix with people. I asked you about, the footy when you played and all that stuff. I think is all good for you. So I do anything that I think can if someone says this vitamin tablet's good, well, I take it, sort of thing, But so I sort of try to do anything that helps slow it down. But I'm fully aware that at some stage, things are going to turn, and no, not so bad for me, but you just worry about what it's going to do to your family. That's what I worry about the most. I'm not so concerned about myself, but because you're going to get looked after or whatever. But my big concern is wasting the family's time and part of life where they could be enjoying things.
I don't think it'd be a waste of time. I understand what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, well, probably that's probably wasn't a good word.
Yeah.
But instead of being out and going on holidays and doing them sort of things, although, the missus does get cranky with me a few times. She'd probably take a bloody holiday and leave me somewhere, Wouldn't be surprised. Take a note on that, mate, for you to tell us later.
I'll send that to you. It's great to hear you be proactive like that, because I think a lot of people go the other way and they get a diagnosis like that and just
I think
don't look to try, because I think, am I right in saying you can't fully stop this? No. You can slow it down, but you can speed it up as well. Yeah. If you're not connecting, you're not doing things.
Yeah, I think, as people get dementia, so I've been told by people who know a lot more than me that a lot of people retreat because they get embarrassed, and so I haven't got to that stage yet. So, I might do the same thing when we get there, because I think you can go through. I don't know enough about dementia, to be honest. I'm only sort of learning what other people tell me, and the doctors tell me. But I think a lot of people probably get a little bit shy and a little bit embarrassed. It seems to be a part of it. I see a lot of other people, I try to sort of mix and talk with that have got dementia, but they sort of retreat a little bit. So that's, I think, a part of the illness.
Yeah. I mean, it's understandable, but I think the way you're attacking it is the best possible way to, keep this current state going for as long as possible?
Well, mate, the best thing like I'm doing right now is raising money for research. So right now, we've paid for 4 research programs, and 4 of them are getting done, and they're roughly about $380,000 each. So they're, it's not that easy to, any sponsors out there, it's not that easy to put 380,000 together. When you're going around trying to a little bit here and a little bit there, and so thanks to here you can have another laugh here. Thanks to my major sponsor, the Royce. See,
not bad,
not bad, another little plug. So so that's it's not easy to come up with that sort of money. So, but we've got 4 happening as we talk. So, touch wood, they might make some advancements during these research programs.
Well, mate, that's it. You never once during this wanted to be a victim, and you automatically wanted to help. And I was part of some of those walks. I did one of those days with you. And mate, you know what was fascinating about it was, the amount of support you received, from friends, loved ones, former teammates, former rivals. I don't do it. I think it was Gene Miles down and Wally Lewis.
Yeah, Trevor Gilmeister.
Trevor Gilmeister. Yeah. Did you play with those lads? Or only against them?
No, I played with them in the Australian side.
Oh, right, yes. Sorry, mate. Yeah. But
so really good friends with them. I've been invited up to the Fogs up there, and they've made it a really good donation to me. So I've been invited up there. I think Gene's the president of the Fogs. That's the former Origin greats. That's what the Queenslanders call themselves. Big noters. I won't get any money off them next time. I better shut up. No, they were fantastic. They invited me up. Went up there to a business lunch, and they made a really big donation to the foundation. So and they're the sort of things that help you out. And I just get blown away. I went to a State of Origin function here last Wednesday fortnight, and 75% of the boys there said, "We'll walk. Next time you're going for a walk, let us know. We'll jump in and go." They're all keen as mustard, as you said. They're all good supporters. Sort of back in our time, probably we all sort of worked and all that sort of stuff. So I think everyone sort of appreciates that you had to go to work, then go and train and everything afterwards, and you after a game you go and have a beer together, and you end up really good mates, and end up maybe some people got to have the pleasure of playing rep footy together, so your mateship grown, and the same with me and Gene and Wally and Trevor and Mal and all them blokes up there too. They all give you great support because you played rep football either against them or rep football with them, as in the Australian side.
Yeah, well, we're going to touch on that 86 Kangaroos tour.
Yeah, I bet you do.
A little bit later on. Don't worry about that. Mate, why walking though? Because one of my distinct memories of you is I remember coming in early one training session at St. Helens, and you weren't running, you were rowing. Now, you're not exactly the body type to be on the row, but geez, you were giving it some.
Yeah, but going nowhere.
It was a stationary one.
I know, but I wouldn't have mattered if it was in the water. Like,
mate,
I was going.
Yeah, I know you were going.
The legs weren't going that far,
Well, you don't have long levers.
No, I understood that.
But what were you doing on the rowing machine all the time? Every, and then lo and behold, I found out every Tuesday you were in there flogging yourself on the rower.
Yeah, I was in there more than Tuesday, but it was it was. If you have a beverage every now and then, mate, you have to earn the right to have one. You know, that's my theory. So we used to get in there and do the old. Was it 20? I think it was 20 rows, 300-metre row, and you had to get it done in under a minute.
And you did 20 of that? You were doing 20?
Then you get 30 seconds
Yeah,
rest. Yeah, we used to do it when I was we were playing, you know, all the time. So you didn't. So when you were back playing in our day, you'd train Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning, or Friday night, or whatever. You know, you only do a few sessions. So I would train all the other days on the day off, you know, and try to keep off your feet, sort of thing. So I got into that stuff. I was always probably didn't have the ability a lot of other players, but so I always had to make sure you were right at the top of your fitness. You know, when you're trying to make rep sides, and even to make your Penrith side every week, I had to be somewhere near operating on full power, not on 75% or anything.
Well, that's what made you stand out, right? Your work ethic. Just quickly, the Royce Simmons Foundation, you've got those 4 research projects happening now. What's the sort of what else are you trying to achieve with that?
Oh, well, what I virtually do is I just I just hand money over to Dementia Australia. And they go and pick the professor they think is best suited to whatever research program's coming up, and the way they go, then they just send me an update, every 3 months or something like that. They send me an update about how it's going, and I can't understand any of it anyway, mate. So they send it to me, but it don't make much sense to me. But it's good they give you feedback, and so them, as I said, them products are happening now. But just some interesting stats for the people out there. Dementia is the biggest killer of women in the world, so it's a massive, second biggest killer of men. There's about 500,000 with dementia in Australia right now as we talk, and that's going to grow quickly to 800,000. And then it takes 1.5 million people to look after people with dementia. So you see the costs that are going, And the other thing is now young people are starting to get dementia. People of the past used to think, well, people only 60, 70, 80. It's not happening now. It's down into children and everything. And the younger generations, the 30s, 40s, 50s, so it's getting a lot worse. And look, right now in the world, there's 55 million people with dementia, and by 2050 it's going to be 139 million.
Wow.
So it just blows you away a little bit, so imagine what getting rid of dementia would do to the budget, let alone all the things it could do to the people that have got dementia. So it's not a little thing, and I don't think we're probably working at it as hard as what we should be.
Yeah, my late grandmother passed with dementia, and my nan is currently in the deep stages of her. She's in a care home now, and you're right in what you said earlier about it impacts the family a lot. A lot.
It does,
or it has the potential to, at least. And
can you just recheck on my wife again? Better taking off on them holidays. You just keep an eye on that for us, mate. And with my money too. All
right, mate. I want to go back, because obviously I knew you were my coach, and then I knew who you were, and I knew about the career you had. Probably not as I didn't realise just how special a player you were, but also I didn't know about your upbringing in the town of Gooloogong. Now, I knew you were from quote unquote the bush, but I read about Gooloogong on the census from 2001. A population, 2001, population of 408.
Can I tell you this is closer to the 8 than the 400. We moved from a little town called Canoundra, which had probably a couple of thousand people in it. When I was about 8 or 9 year old, my dad was a butcher and worked for actually a butcher shop in Canoundra, and then he seen the butcher shop at Gooloogong was up for sale, so he bought the little shop down at Gooloogong. So we packed up and moved down there. Now I went to there was a couple of primary schools, a Catholic school and a public school. In my school there was 6. In my class there was 6. There was 4 girls and 2 boys. And I think in the whole school there was 48, I think.
Really?
In the school I went to, yeah. 48 people. So I suppose their mum and dad, so it might be getting up a little bit more than what I thought, but there's never been 408 people in Gooloogong. You'd be counting for 20 mile every way to fit that in.
Mate, what's life like in a place like that? Because for me it's so difficult to try and even comprehend.
Well, amazing back then. Everything's changed a little bit now. It's probably not going as all them little towns out in the bush are probably not going quite as good now as they were back then. Back then it had what we call it was called a country club, right? So it sounds a bit flashier than what it really was. So we had 4 tennis courts there, and they're the old hard tennis courts, and then we had a bowling green. We had 13 golf holes. You had to play another 5. You had to play 2 twice,
Yeah.
And they were sand greens. So sand, because you just didn't have the finances to put water and all that on. So they were sand greens. So you didn't hit a pitch and wedge onto them because it would, like the sand. What they do was they just clear off a round bit, and then they put sand on it. Then they put over that. They put sump oil and diesel, and run over it. So the sand went from white to black, and then you'd chip and run onto the green. Hope I'm not jumping too far ahead. You chip and run onto the green. Then you'd get a little sort of a turned upside down rake, and you'd pull it across and it'd flatten it all out, and you'd have your putt into obviously the hole. But you didn't have to judge for any up the hill or down the hill or bend or anything. You just had to hit it hard enough to get through the sand to get to the green. So we had that. We had a couple of cricket wickets too. And so everyone used to come up there, and once a year we'd have a sports weekend where you'd play the competition. People would come from everywhere. You'd have maybe the town would double its size. All right, so double its size, and you'd play. You'd have a team of 4 of yous. So you'd play 4 games of tennis, and count your score against it. Then you draw someone else for the cricket, and you go over and you'd have 4 overs of cricket against each other. Then you'd finish that, and you'd go and you'd play 6 holes of golf, I think it was at the time, and then you'd play 6 ends of lawn bowls. So it was a really, and I used to take a busload of boys from Panthers back in the early 80s. We jump in a bus and up we go. We take about 7 or 8 sides up and have a weekend up there. But it was more about enjoying yourself and bending your elbow with a couple of drinks in between your events. But it was a big sportsman's type weekend where so the little town had something like that little country club, as they call it, with all them little sporting things happening. Right back then, I think we had 2 cricket teams and 2 good turf wickets and played in the Cara competition. And the tennis competition Tuesday and Thursday nights. So there was always something on. In between that, the Lachlan River was 300 or 400 yards away. 7 or 8 down you go. You could learn to swim by then. You'd be swimming across the river, swinging out of the trees on ropes, doing somersaults and landing in the water and all that sort of things.
How do you even play rugby league though? How do you play 13 on 13? Like, how far would you have to travel as a youngster to get competitive games?
Well, Gooloogong never had a rugby league side, of course, because they couldn't have made a side. They had a side at school, so you'd play 4 games a year at school, and it was you'd play a little town called Eugowra, and another. Well, they were bigger than Gooloogong, of course, but you play another town called Grenfell. You'd play game over there and a game at home, both of them, so you'd only play. But them schools would have, in their 5th and 6th class, they would have enough boys to form a team. At Gooloogong, we needed from the top down to you made the side.
Oh,
so
right.
I remember playing fullback for Gooloogong when I was in 2nd class. Playing against the 12-year-olds. I was about 8. And then when I got to when we got to play and I was in 6th class, we'd play again, and there was only me and one other boy in 6th class. So they all come from 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd to make up the team. So you'd run the ball up, have a run, then get tackled, and whoever went to dummy half would go to dummy half, run back around the front and give it back to me, and I'd have to run again. So there was only 2 of us at that age, you could play. So it was. So it was plenty to do, mate. We just made it up.
Yeah. What sort of traits does a town like that instill in a person? What did that instill in you, do you think?
Oh, I think it just made you go and look for things to do. You know, like, as I said, we'd head to the river, head to the tennis court, head there. It wasn't, you had to go and make your own. Like, we all had push bikes. I had a horse. Used to jump in the back of the horse and go for a ride.
You horse riding?
Well, let me tell you, Dad bought me this horse. So this particular day, I've just took it out the front of the house, which was the main road, the main street. On the other side of the main street, there was nothing, just paddocks, all right?
Yeah.
So the house is this side. Main street, paddocks. So I hopped on the horse bareback because I was only taken across the road to have a bit of a pick at the fresher grass over there. And 2 cattle dogs come out of a friend's yard and took after the horse. So the horse bolted.
And you're on it?
I'm sitting on a bareback. So it's gone down the hill, and there has been a bit of a flood, and it come to a water patch, and it stopped on a 2-bob piece, and obviously I kept going. Thank God I landed in the middle of the water, swam back out, got back on it. Actually, I didn't get back on it. I led it up to to our yard, and I said, "Dad, come here." I said, "Sell this." So we sold it. And I only had the one thing. So a few years later, got a motorbike.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Swap a horse for a motorbike.
Yeah, but no. Had the motorbike coming home to go to work at Gooloogong, coming home, and I turned off the tar road onto a dirt road and hit a rock about the size of my head, straight over the handlebars, and kept going. No water to land in this time. Bounced a few times, got up, pushed it home, sold it. Whatever's thrown me off, mate, I'd get rid of. I'd sell it and go. So, there.
Fair enough. When you're making your way through the professional ranks, you signed for Penrith Panthers. How big a adjustment from life in Gooloogong was it when you moved to Penrith?
Yeah, well, later on, I played a bit of rugby union. Went back to Canowindra where I was playing rugby union before we moved down, because there was no junior rugby league at Canowindra. So everyone there played the rugby union. So I went there. Then also when I lived at Gooloogong, we ended up going to high school at Cowra. So I ended up playing for the schoolboy side up there, which was a really good side. I think we only got beaten twice in 4 years or something. So we're really good, had a really good side up there. So I then ended up playing a bit of. I finished like playing with the under 16s for the schoolboy side. Then decided I'd play league for Cowra, which is a town of about 10 or 11,000. So I ended up playing under 18s there. My first year when I was still in, like, they went in 2 years, 16s, 18s. So I played there. Then the following year, they asked me to play first grade when I was still eligible to sort of play in 18s. They asked me would I come and play first grade, and I said I would. So what happened then after doing that, in our first year, we made the grand final with the Cowra first grade side. We played a town called Blaney in the grand final. It was my first grand final, with men all around me. I was very nervous before the game, and right at with about 2 minutes to go, I got feet across the tunnel in the old hooking style, feet across the tunnel. So I got penalised for cheating, virtually, feet across the tunnel. And they kicked a goal from about 45 metres out to beat us in the grand final. So my first grand final with the men was a failure, lost it for them. So then I went across the Canowindra, which is remember the little towns I was talking. So I went across Canowindra the next year because they offered me a bit of money to go over there, and like a few dollars back then was, I grabbed it. So I went across Canowindra, and we had a pretty good year over there. We made the semis, we got beaten in the semis. Then I went back to Cowra again the next year. Well, the next year I go back to Cowra, I get flogged in the scrums because remember when I was playing my union days, I was actually a halfback. So I was still trying to learn that scrummaging about it. So I went back and got flogged at Cowra and lost the scrums and lost them the grand final again. So I think they said sort of get out of the town and go down to Penrith and have a go. Get away from us. You're a loser.
Really? That was...
No, it wasn't quite as bad as that. But that's how they really felt.
Yeah.
No, I had a lot of good mates at Cowra, still have. In 1977, I got 77, 78, I got an invitation to go down and trial with St. George. This is after, so I went down and had a trial with St. George. At the end of the game, they said, was when the 13 import rule was in, and they said, no, you're not quite what we want. So I went home. So...
Sorry, what's the 13 import rule?
Well, import rule was when you could only you had to have your local juniors playing, but you could have
in first grade.
Yeah, in your club.
Yeah.
Your first, second, third grade at the time. There was a 13 import rule, and what it was, you could have exactly what it says. You could have 13 imports come to your club, but everyone else had to be locals.
Really?
Yes, everyone else had to be locals. And that was back in the 70s. Yeah. So that's how it worked. Yeah, so 13 imports.
And imports is anyone from outside your...
Outside your area. And then, anyone...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that was a rule they had at the time. Or as a soft way of telling me I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So I trialled with them and didn't do any good. Then Souths invited me down in the end of the 1979 season, start of the 1980 season. So I went out with Souths. I lived down at Coogee with a couple of old mates from Cowra who had been down there, and they were down there running brewery trucks and so on, and they had a unit, and there was a few other people that had an upstairs and a downstairs, and there was blokes like Charlie Frith was there playing with Souths in his first year, and Grant Jones, who played fullback for them. There was quite a few around that area that lived in these places, this big house where we were. So I trained for them November, December, January. Then we started trials. So I was having my first trial, and all of a sudden I get a ring from a bloke called Len Stacker, who was a coach at Penrith at the time. So Len rang me and said, would you mind having a trial with us? And I said, yeah. And he says, I know you're playing tomorrow. He said, but you can come out for a trial next week. And I said, well, you've got a trial on Sunday. So I said, I'll go to that. I said, I'll have the trial today, Saturday, and I'll go with you the next day. I said, that, all good. And Len made his contacts through, as I said, to Barry Rush, who was a member of the 1963 Kangaroos, and he was then the current captain coach of Lithgow Workmen's Club. Like, in other words, he had a great career at Parramatta, then went out to the bush, retired, bought himself a pub out there, and was the captain coach of the thing. So Lenny rung him up and said, is there any decent young players out there? And he said, yeah, there's one at Cowra, and recommended him. So he rung Mum to find out, to say we'll have a trial. No, he's down at Souths already trialling. So he rung me, and that's how the contact was made. And so he came out and watched me that day, and as I said, I turned up the very next day for a trial out there, and I went from a 5th grade game at South Sydney, which probably wasn't giving me a lot of confidence. I'm in a 5th grade game trying to make the 1st or 2nd grade type thing, and but obviously they give me a good trial, and was watching everything. And then the next day I went out to Penrith, and I was in a 2nd grade game, and I played that game, and when it was finished, they asked me to sit on the sideline for the 1st grade, and 20 minutes to go in that game, I got sent on, and I was playing against George Paponis, who was the current Australian captain. So, so at the end of the game, Lenny said, we'd like to sign you. There's a bit of trouble with finances right now, but we'll try to sign you and all that. So I sort of told Souths that I was, I was sort of down there trialling that. So for the next 4 to 5 weeks, I moved sort of straight into Penrith with a mate, or another Penrith player. So for the next 4 or 5 weeks, Lenny had to fight the club to see whether they'd give us, because he asked me what I wanted. I had no idea. I said 4,000, and he said, "Righto, I'll see can I get it." And the club turned it down, but he kept annoying them. So eventually they give him another 4,000 because at the time they already had signed Jim Jones, who I battled with over the years to play hooker for the first year, a couple of years, and there's another bloke called Steve Martin, who was a really good hooker, versatile player out there as well. So they thought that was sufficient, but Lenny drove them nuts to he ended up giving us a contract, yeah.
Yeah, and then you quickly became, first team regular, and you start to build a pretty decent team where you're captain. You've got the likes of Alexander, Gaia, Cartwright, Fittler. What was so special about that group? Like, how did they come together?
Well, there was a time, like, just after we was signed for Penrith, we had a couple of lean years. I mean, we just didn't have the personnel to go on and win continuous games. We never had enough depth, and we had good players but not enough depth and all that. So you get a taste of that getting beaten. Got a wooden spoon one year, then you get a taste of that getting beaten, and it got to the stage where there was only 5 players. I think it was 1980. It was the end of 1983 season. There was only 5 players left on contract at Penrith, and they were saying, what can we do? How can, only 5 players on contract, how are we going to get them? And they had a meeting at thing, and I went to the meeting, and at the end of it, I went to Roger Cowan, who was the boss at the time. I said, Roger, only got one chance here, is get Tim Sheens back, because Tim had retired a couple of years before and went and played the bush. And I said, you need to get Tim back here because he knows all the locals, and he might be able to bring them back from various other clubs they're at, and so on and so on. So they went and talked to Tim, and Tim said, yeah, we'll come back. I'll give him a couple of calls, and he as well, just to try to encourage him. And he come back and he took the job, and they went into this system where if you played first grade, you got $1,000 a game. So a lot of players come back for it because they thought, well, like I was on I think at the time I was on about 12,000, and I was a captain, and still on, and so they all come back, and because they thought, it was a good chance. Play 20 games, you get 20 grand, which was a big contract back then. So Tim come back, and they come up with that system, and young blokes like Brandy and all that. I remember Tim coming to me and he said, I'm going to start Greg Alexander in the first team this week for a trial. I said, mate, he's only a kid. I said, he hasn't even got any hair on his bum. I said, you can't give him a run. I said, he's not quite up ready yet. So about two or three games later, I lobbed up to him and I said, what are you doing, mate? You're holding that kid back. Let him through. Which he already, mate, because he knew. So because he even started him in the centres, I think, for his first game in reserve grade. I think he scored 4 tries or something. Then in the halfback, then in the thing. So that little bit of a sort of getting Tim back and coming up with that idea of the $1,000 a game. It didn't matter if he won or lost. $1,000 a game. So Brandy come back. I think in his first year, I think he played something like 20 first grade games. So he actually got more than the captain.
Not bad.
So it was, So we had a lot of, Tim come back. So it was a good, he knew what was happening around the town, and he knew, we had to get the juniors back. He knew that was the only way to sort of rebuild because of the junior strength. He got thought, well, I've got to get all the juniors back. I've got to get them playing well. I've got to get them educated. I've got to get their skill levels up. And I think because he went along them lines, and with the encouragement, with the money, that things sort of took off, and all of a sudden, MG and all them blokes started to appear on the scene because they were coming through the system, And it was.
What type of captain were you, Royce?
Yeah, I was a lead by example, mate. Like I said earlier, I didn't have the talent, the talent of a lot of other. But I'm not saying there's a big gap between me and that, but I didn't have the talent of some other people that you were going for a position or whatever. So I always thought you had to be, you had to be very fit. You had to, do whatever could make you a better player. By diets, like I got into the diets when I was pretty young to make sure I was eating the right food and all that sort of stuff. So did anything to try to, the other boys will say, well, especially 1986, like I was the first, lucky enough to be the first Penrith player to ever get picked for Australia. So yeah. So that was something I was very proud of, but it was something that I knew that because them boys then would know that it's possible to do it from Penrith.
Yeah.
And by always being sort of a lead by example bloke, I knew the boys at Penrith would be saying, geez, that little bugger, he trains hard.
Yeah.
And whatever, and he eats the right food and whatever, and does whatever to try to make him a better player. And to be honest, that's what they'd be thinking. And to be honest, I think I'm a better player, like Cardi, MG, Cole Vandervoort, the list goes on, they're all thinking, well, I can do it too. I can do it too. And a couple of years later, later that year, Greg joined me on the Kangaroo Tour. So he was the second. Then all of a sudden, Cardi, MG, all the boys started to break through, and all the rep footy,
I didn't realise you were first.
And Brad Izzard, blokes like, he was even before me. Brad, he broke into the state side, but I'm leaving someone out of that Penrith group too. Cardi, MG,
Fittler,
Brandy, and Freddie.
Yeah.
How would I forget Freddie?
You'll be filthy.
Make sure that bit gets in.
Hey, I want to ask you. So you build this team. You go from wooden spooners to beating grand finalists. Then the 1991 grand final. It's 91 the one.
Yeah, 91. Yeah,
that you win.
Yeah.
What's the tries, mate? You're the first one.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, what happened?
Well, hang on. Let me just add.
Right.
Mate, I'm watching it and just thinking, why the fuck didn't you try something like that a little bit earlier in your career? Mate, it was first class. Where have you been hiding that?
Well, that's what I was just about to tell you before you had to jump rudely in my way. It was so hard for the 11 previous years to not show that ability to score a try. I thought I've got to keep it for a very special occasion. And I released it in 1991, grand final day. I thought, how easy is this? Like taking weed off blind chooks, I said.
Mate, you pissed it.
Oh, what a fluke, eh?
Mate, it's the second one, I mean, I'd probably score.
I doubt it. You would have been still under the post.
Having a rest. But, mate, that first try.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty, mate, it is, considering you hadn't scored all year, like, it's pretty good.
No, I think in the first 2 or 3 years I come down, think I scored, 3 or 4 tries a year or something like that. Then I went on a very long patch, mate. It was more than that year too. I think you could have went back another couple. Yeah. So, it was just that ability to hide that for 11 years, mate, before releasing it.
Mate, you're smart, man.
Releasing it.
Not just a pretty face, Royce. You're very clever. Mate, you said after that grand final, you reflected, said it wouldn't bring back the loss of 1990 against the same opponent.
No, it was. Well, I think that the 90,
like it wouldn't avenge it.
No, the hurt was just the getting beaten from that. Like, no, that still, it still sticks in my mind.
Does it?
Yeah, it still sticks in my mind after there's that many years me playing for Penrith and I captained that side where I didn't captain the 91 side. I captained the 90 side. Just to be back, back in 1980 when we're getting flogged every week and getting the wooden spoon and going through, then getting right through that to that game, and then getting beaten. I just remember sitting on the field crying like a big kid, and quite embarrassing, to be honest. That still sticks in my mind. Won't go.
Yeah. Wow.
I think over my whole career, I think a lot of people say that they love winning, they get up the top, and they don't show a lot of respect for the people under them because that's the way they win. And I respect them people because some of the ones I've talked to are outstanding sports people who do that. They don't show any respect because they believe that's how you stay at the top and that's how you're going. Me, I'd sort of get motivated by the fear of getting beaten. That motivates me more than the other people looking the other way. I just hate the thought of getting beaten, and that sort of sticks in my head more than the winning.
Yeah,
ability,
wow.
I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense.
No, it does make sense.
It just scares me to death to get beaten. And that's why, after the games, I see the boys today, they're all shaking hands and cuddling. I'd be in the dressing shed because I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't have been dirty with the opposition. They beat you.
Yeah.
But I'd be dirty with myself or whatever, Of course, didn't do what we should have done, That's what you're out there to try to do, win games, and if you're not winning them, it just used to. But funny enough, I wouldn't lose my confidence. I'd still turn up and think, well, I can beat these blokes.
But that was the drive.
I've never played a game where I didn't think we could win.
Yeah. But you had that drive. The drive was more, I don't want to feel like that.
That's right.
Rather than I do want to feel like this.
Yeah.
Far out. I don't think you're out on your own by that. There's plenty of people that are motivated just not to lose.
Yeah. If you get beaten, that to me used to sort of stick in my mind all week, right up to the next game. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. It's just stick. The whole thing was that where, if I won, I'd enjoy it for 2 days. Then I'd be saying to myself, got to get ready this week. Got to be, got to get your head back around. That game's over. You got to get your head back around this one now. Let's start getting ready for this game. So that's sort of the bit of a difference. You enjoyed a couple of days, but the other way, you
just hated that feeling so much.
Yeah, just hated that.
But going into that last game, there's the potential for the fairy tale. Like your last game of your career being a grand final. Yeah. I had the very same thing. It can be a fairy tale, but you also know it could be a disaster and heartbreak.
Yeah.
What were your emotions going into that game? Can you recall?
No, I was very positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never sort of thought we weren't going to win. But I did know it was my last game. I knew I wouldn't, after this one, there's no win in the grand final. I go back, I got beaten, and we joked about things earlier on, but I got beaten in a grand final in 1977, and that grand final to me, playing back in Cowra, was just as important as the grand final we're playing in my last game.
Yeah.
Because I was still playing with my mates.
Yeah.
You weren't playing for money or whatever. You're playing with your mates and your friends, and you want to win. And so 77 I get beaten in the grand final. 79 I get beaten in the grand final. Again, same feelings. 1990 I get beaten in the grand final. So all week I'm just saying to myself, well, this is your last chance, mate. And I look back now, and I've won a grand final, and I think, and I see a bloke like Wayne Pearce, he springs to mind. Wayne, better player than me. He's gone through his whole career and hasn't won a grand final, and I'm thinking that, like, yeah. That is, something that is going to eat away at him for the rest of his life, to a point, like, oh, you never won a grand final, it's going to be, and there's a lot of players out there, great players that have never won a grand final. As I said, far better players than me, but I just kept thinking to myself, we've got to win, we have to win because it's going to be a part, and a lot of them boys never ever won another grand final anyway. A lot of them great players who we spoke about earlier. So you go through your career, and I'm very proud of my career. But imagine saying, "But we haven't won a grand final." I feel so sorry for them great players who haven't won one. It just must be a big, just a bloody party you just sort of thrown away.
How were the celebrations after? Obviously, your very famous speech around you'd want to have a beer with each and every Penrith fan. How many of those fans did you get to?
I've been through the Penrith city now about 3 times. They haven't had one with me; they've had 3. So don't worry about that, mate. That's all done.
Finished, completed, mission accomplished.
Now it's their turn to start buying me the 4th one.
See?
That's where we got to straighten up now. No, that's to this current day. I can be anywhere in the world, and someone will yell out, "Simo, you owe me a beer," or "I'll get you one, mate." You hear it anywhere. I've been in Hawaii walking up the street and a bloke shouts, "Simo, come over here and I'll buy you one." You hear it all the time. Yeah.
In Hawaii.
Yeah, but like I've everywhere, different states, different parts of the world. You run into someone. It's I'm glad I said this because it breaks the ice with a lot of people who want to say good day to you.
Yeah.
And you even though you mightn't have a beer, but at least you'll stand and talk for 5 or 10 minutes.
Mate, just watching that back, you're like a rock and roll star. That's what it sounds like. It's the type of thing a rock and roll star would say.
Listen,
it really is.
You remember I went to that school? You remember I said the school and 6 in the class?
Yeah.
Well, the concert at the end of the year was coming up, all right? So the nuns are there, and they've said to me, righto, we're going to get ready for the concert at the end of the year. So we're going to have a sing along.
Yeah.
With the 6 kids, So I start singing away, doing my best, and the teacher come across and says, "You're putting the other 5 out of tune." She said, "Can you mime?" And I said, "Yeah, I can mime." So, and she said, "You're no good at that neither." She said, "Can you work the curtain?" So I got that one covered. So Mum and Dad used to sit there every year, you know, sitting there looking, and I'd run past with the curtain, do a big wave. You ever look at me in the Australian Test side, singing the national anthem? I'm back miming because I don't want to put the other.
Oh,
I don't want to put
really?
the other 16 out of tune. Mate,
Well-
I'm the world's worst singer, and you've called me a bloody
Mate,
a rock star.
it was a rock star style speech. I'm gonna have a beer with each and every one of you. It was brilliant. How was the celebrations after that, though? Obviously, not just celebrating the grand final, but also a magnificent footballing career.
We went everywhere in the club, sort of thing. We went back. We got in the bus to come home, and it was getting a bit scary because people in the cars were trying to get close, and someone stood out on the freeway with a big sign, Premiers or something.
Oh, because it's Penrith's first one as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So
you were rock stars.
Well, we're coming home, and they're along the M4. People gathered everywhere, and this big thing, and you know the bus driver had to.
There's people on the
people
M4
pulling up on the M4 everywhere, all along it.
What, like pedestrians, or
Well,
just getting
pulling
out of
over
their
in
car?
cars and waving and things like that. It was a bit dangerous, you know.
Yeah.
And just there was one stage they had a sign out, and the bus driver virtually had to back right up because, you know, people get pulled in. You know, they're all holding the sign, thinking the bus will go straight through it, but the driver slows right up because he's scared of pulling people underneath. And, you know, it was, and he was going really slow and all that because he knew there was all that. So it was, but, you know, so we get back, and every place in the club is chockers, you know, the nightclubs, the bar areas, every part of it was chockers. They had to stop people coming in. It was just too crowded. They had outside venues. They had everything. Yeah, it was a magic sort of a night. And you know, them all singing and carrying on, and yeah, it was pretty special.
I bet it was. Matt, as part of your career, you mentioned it earlier. You played representative football, and one of those representative was the 86 Kangaroos. So I just want to play you something because we sat down with Sterlo and Blocker. Now, I don't know how much you paid them to say this, but I just want to play you this video.
The relationship that I got with Royce Simmons over the years, just a great bloke on and off the field, magnificent competitor. Probably didn't have the ability of a Benny Elias, I would say, and he probably wouldn't mind me saying that. But just as a wholehearted bloke on and off the field, you know, I'd probably say Royce would be the bloke that I enjoyed the most.
I hope he never gets to hear this. I
Oh,
really
his head
do.
it'll be too big.
Because he's my choice.
Yeah.
Oh, really,
Well,
Pete?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I spent more time with him than anybody else, and that's probably a sign of you know the relationship, how much you're enjoying it. Yeah, and today, you know, I love catching up. I'm worried because every time I see him, the eyes
The
are
eyes
just
get
the
smaller.
slits. They're like Venetian blinds. They just keep getting let down, type thing. Eventually, you won't be able to see anything. But and I think we established a really nice relationship during the Origin period in those 3 games. And to carry that into the
And Pete, the other thing about him too,
tour.
He was exactly the same with Pete and I as he was with everyone. Do you understand? I don't know. He just had this.
I do know
just
exactly
had this
what you're saying.
Gravitation towards him, you know. I don't know. It's just the way he was. Just a fun bloke. Just great to be around, you know.
When it came to the the Giants versus the Lilliputians, he wasn't much help there, but his mobility, he got crushed. I tried to help him out.
Never helped at all.
How does it make you feel when you hear people talk about that? Because we asked them about their best on ground for the tour, on and off the field, and they both come up with you and they speak so highly of you.
Yeah, well, they're great blokes too. And mate, I'm over the moon to hear that, of course. I remember back in 1986 in the State of Origin game, Ron Willie was our coach, and this is where Blocker's involved, but I'm just Ronnie Willie's our coach, and he pulls me aside before the first game and he said, Royce, I want to let you know that you're going to be vice captain in New South Wales. He said, but we'll just keep that to ourselves. Just you and me will just know that, He said, we don't need to tell everyone. And I said, all right, Ron. I said, I've been captain of Penrith now for about 7 or 8 years. I said, what role do you want me to play? He said, it's pretty simple. He said, first scrum, he said, punch Greg Dowling in the head. And and for the people out there who don't know Greg Dowling, his head's as big as this wall on the back here, and he's a mean person, and who I ended up playing with in the Kangaroos a few months later. But I said, all right, Ron, so I'll punch Greg Dowling in the head first scrum. I said, what do you think will happen then? He said, I don't think you'll hurt him. And he said, and while he's punching you in the head, he said, I'm going to get Blocker to knock him clean out. And I said, Ron, any chance of making Blocker vice captain? I thought we'd cut the middleman out here. So anyway, so that's when me and Blocker sort of started to get to know each other, yeah. And one thing about Blocker, you didn't get picked on too much when you're putting your arm around him. And he was he's a great character too, and a tremendous player. And I mean, later on, I think you said to me we're going to ask a question about, who can. One of the questions about you're going to ask me about the spine, which is the best spine you ever had. Yeah. Well, and I just start thinking, you start thinking Sterlo and just a chip and anything you want. You want to do Sterlo's today, still there. Yeah. If you want to have a golf, they both are. Yeah. Like for me walk, well, Sterlo's legs and knees are not real good anymore, and Blocker's getting a bit big, but they both turn up, and I'll get a backhander for that. I'll get a backhander for that. I won't go with 100 yards of him. Sterlo's legs, knees are gone. Actually, Blocker still does walk. He still does walk with us. He's fit as a fiddle.
Hey, don't be backtracking now.
No. Well, I'll still get me backhander. Don't worry. But they still, come and help you out whenever they can, and they're just great. As I said, they're great company. You always get a laugh when you turn up with them. But as we went through that Kangaroo tour, and to be quite honest, I come out at the end of it, and every one of them boys I went away with bloody all champions, and I'm not talking about football, good blokes,
Yeah. Well, you were the starting hooker in all 3 test matches against Great Britain. It must have been a fantastic time, and for me as an Englishman to sit with Blocker and with Sterlo, it was honestly a privilege to hear them talk. And mate, one of the funny things they spoke about was the big guys versus the little guys wrestling each other in the pub. Is Sterlo right? You didn't fare too well in those.
What Sterlo didn't tell you, when. Lead by example. I thought, well, I'll take the big bloke out first up. So I charged into Mal Meninga. bad decision. Bad decision. He knocked me down. He picked me up by the ankles like that, went across to a hard little patch of dirt and banged me head like a jackhammer for, I'd say, a good 20 hits, you know, then just left me there. I can't believe how strong that man is. Bloody hell. Strong as an ox, yeah.
Royce, one of the stories Blocker and Sterlo told me on that tour is the time you threw yourself out of a nightclub.
Yeah. Well, what happened? That we just wrapped up the series, I think, and we won. Oh no! Sorry, we won our first test. So we're all pretty excited about winning the first test over there, and we went back to this particular nightclub where, you know, where we used to go, you know, when we won a game for Sunday, something. So we've gone back there, and everyone's in there and everyone's enjoying themselves and having a bit of a drink, and I must have been getting a bit loud or whatever, and a bouncer come across and he said, this big man, you know, like bigger than Blocker and all them, you know, he come over and he said, you better make your way out when you finish that beer, little fella. You're getting a bit loud. And I looked at him and I said, mate, there's never been anyone good enough to put me out ever before. And I said, you won't be the first one. And just before he was about to grab me, I grabbed myself, you know, on the back of the neck and by the trousers. And I took across and I threw myself down the stairs, you know. Then I hit the grass down the bottom and I said, get down here, big fella, where I've got enough room to move. I said, I'll slap you around, you know. And he was up at the top. And he obviously knew I was just, you know. And he's shaking his head like this. Then he broke into a bit of a laugh and he turned around. I walked home and he went it. So that was all good. Anyway, we're there for 3 months. So every Sunday he enjoyed this. He enjoyed this every Sunday. He'd walk across and he'd start laughing before he got to me. He'd say, throw yourself out. Oh, yeah. Sometimes it was early in the night. I wasn't even. He wouldn't even wait for his bit of entertainment. I thought, bloody hell, I've hardly had a drink, and he's got me throwing myself out already.
Really, mate? You're not. They also are very complimentary about your dance moves.
I never did. I might have did. That's
it. That's exactly what they said. The finger pointing in the air.
The broken ones. Look at them.
Yeah. Mate, just on that, then were you in the same mindset of them where Kangaroos was bigger than Origins? Like that was the pinnacle.
Mate, look, you play State of Origin, obviously because you want to win for your state. And you get very passionate about it, you know. And back then, you got to remember back then, or even before that, New South Wales used to win to the State of Origin, sort of started up, you know. So, yeah, but you play along because obviously you want your state to win, and and you get very passionate about it, and you want to win more than you think you can, and but one of their main reasons was for it because I wanted to win one to keep everyone happy, but I want to pull me green and gold jumper on too. You know, I want to play for my country. There's not a better. I can't think of anything better than playing for your country. Throw in grand finals, throw in everything. Playing for your country has got to be the biggest honour that, you know, and I dreamed of it from a kid, you know. I used to follow St. George as a kid, and I used to get out and run around the backyard on my own, scoring tries, calling myself Graham Langlands and Billy Smith. And, you know, when you're 6 or 7 and all that sort of stuff, then playing and you know, and as I said, playing for New South Wales, and I was lucky enough to be in a 3-0 series in 1986. So I got picked onto the Australian side that, you know, and, you know, I'm not taking anything away from beating Queensland, because that's why you're playing there. You want to win for your state. You put everything on the line. You try just as hard as you do for Australia. But I don't think there's anything better than standing there and in a lineup with your mates who play for Australia, looking up, watching the Australian crowd and the flag, and singing the national anthem, mate. There's nothing better than that.
Or miming it.
Yeah, or miming it in my case. Don't want to put the other ones out of tune.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you've got family things that are more important, but I'm talking about everything outside that.
Do you think the modern day player misses out, Royce, that they don't get that kangaroo style tour? They don't get it doesn't appear as, it appears Origin has overtaken it. But if international football was where it could be, like it was when you were playing, like I know if you look, rep football, international football was here, Origin's gone above. If international football again went over the top of that,
look, playing international footy, as I said, is in my opinion is the highest honour, and long way to playing for your country. You know, doesn't matter. You know, you get out there as a Queenslander alongside you, or a New South Welshman, or anything, Victorian if they want to throw, they find one there. But if you're playing for your country, there's no better honour. And I look, going away on a trip away like that 3 months in England, there's just the bond and the friendship and the things you get for life, you know, like turn up at the kangaroo reunion, to me is just outstanding, you know, seeing the boys all getting older and you know, hobbling around and carrying on, whinging and whining, but still a great time, you know. And it's you know, it's hard to describe, to be quite honest, very hard to describe, but no greater honour in the world.
Yeah, I think it's like I was fortunate to be a part of some fantastic England tours with the absolute time of my life. It really was. And don't get me wrong, I've had some great times at club football over in England, here in Australia as well. But
I suppose with the thing now with, you know, the seasons, you come back, you're preparing for the next season to come up. Player, I think, part of the agreement now is you get 8 weeks. I don't know what it is, but you get something like 8 weeks holiday, which the boys are entitled to and want to get. But, you know, I think a kangaroo tour, again, once every, you know, 4 years or something like that.
Make it special, like the Olympics is every 4 years, the World Cup's every 4 years.
And I think it is really great for particularly English rugby league.
Yeah, it is.
To get them out there playing, you know, not only playing tests, but playing against the club sides, you know, as it was back then. You got to remember you played 20 games. Yeah. It was Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, but I don't know if we'd ever get back to that, but I think there's something that, you know, that would be maybe a little bit of a
meet in the middle.
A little bit longer, and maybe, you know, not only play the test, but maybe you might be able to even poke your head down into Paris for a game or something. The game's down there trying to get going. Yeah. So maybe even a game down around there.
Matt, one of your big rivalries on the rep scene, Benny Elias. How did you go up against him? Was it personal or?
Oh, I suppose every time you play, it's back in the old days when you're hooking for the ball, it's always personal. I mean, you know you had to get about it, but Benny was an outstanding player. Like, you know, his ability and the main thing with Benny, outside his abilities, it was the speed he had too. He was very quick for a hooker, you know, in them days. A lot of pace and had the ability to do things that some of the other hookers couldn't do, you know, with his ability and his you know, his runs out of dummy half and getting them over the advantage line, and you know, his ability to kick that well. You know, he had a lot of things in his game. Yeah, fantastic player. I mean, went on to play a lot of Origins and a lot of Tests. Yeah. And just have a look at them, and it just says what a tremendous player he was. And obviously, back in our time, look, you had to win the ball, you know, and you know, to keep your position in the side and that sort of thing. So you, and then the game started to gradually change a bit, and I think probably, you know, Benny had a bit to do with that, and then Steve Walters said, you know, he looked like, and Kieran too. The game started to change. Then Cameron Smith and all them. I've missed some good hookers out in the middle there, but the game sort of started to change as the rules changed too. So you get out from marker a bit more and get to people and so on. But you know, there's been a lot of good hookers over the time.
Mate, it was an amazing career, capped off with the grand final. But you weren't done with rugby league just yet. You started out coaching. I know you did a little bit with St Mary's. Yeah. You end up over at Hull FC. You spoke about you had a couple of fantastic years there at the start of the show. You signed my old coach, Des Hasler, to come and play for you and Hull FC. But there was a bit of a process, wasn't there? Can you just explain how that came about and what you as a coach had to do to bring over the Australian Des?
Well, it was after our first season of being coach of Hull. I had a short period at St Mary's. Hull come over. They were doing some interviews, and I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to apply for this job just for experience. I said, I'm coaching St Mary's now, but I'll do this for experience, you know, and might learn something, you know. So anyway, I applied for the job at Hull, and next thing, I've got the job, and I just went, bloody hell, I've only been coaching for bloody 3 months, and really haven't only played 1 or 2 games, and so, you know, I got the job. So I went to St Mary's and I said, look, you wouldn't believe this, I've got a job. And they said, look, Royce, they said what a great club they are, the St Mary's Club, and set up wonderfully and well run and all that. And they said, that's our job, mate, to get players to a higher and better level. So they said, go with our blessings, because that's what we're all about, and that's what they've been doing for years. So, so I packed up, went over to Hull, and got over there, and at one of my first meetings, we sat down, and the 3 people that come over to interview us were at the meeting, of course, the chairman, the vice chairman, and one other, but there was another chap there I didn't know on the board, obviously 6 or 7 on the board, and this was my first meeting. I've just arrived, and he says to me, you know, anyone want to ask Royce any questions about the thing? Yeah, I'd like to. Do you let players misbehave and don't turn up if they're late for training? And I'd say, no, you got to have discipline. You got to have. Do you let players? So this went on for 10 minutes. Do you let play? I said, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I said, if this board member pokes his finger at me one more time, I was going to bite it off at the knuckle and shove it up his ass. And so I got up to walk out. I thought, oh, I'll go and pack my bags and I'm flying home, And he said, you might be all right. And all the other chairmen, they all fell off the chairman, the vice, they fell off their seats laughing because they knew what Richard was like. Anyway, me and Richard ended up best mates. So that happened there. So that's how I sort of got over there. And then when I get over there, we had our first season, and I think the year before they finished second last or something. So I moved them up the ladder 2 or 3. We just missed. I think we finished 9th out of top 8 at the time. We finished 9th, but we were struggling, and it wasn't. The whole people wanted a lot more. They're very passionate, good people. They are good people, but very passionate. So they wanted, and I said to one of these sponsors one day, I said, mate, can you find some money for us or something? I said, we need to buy some players. And the bloke said to me, well, why don't you do something yourself? You come over here, you expecting things and all that. And I'm there.
Really?
He's having a little pot about what you do it, see? So I'm there, and at this stage I just finished playing football, decided I wouldn't train much for the first, while I'm coaching, got caught up, with all that sort of stuff during the season, watching videos, whatever. And I've went from 86 kilos to about 98 kilos. So I was pretty big, but we were only 5'1" too. He says to me, why don't you get up and do something and promote something yourself? And I said, all right. I said, if I run a marathon, I said, will you give me $1,000? And he says, £1,000.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, I will. All right. I said, I run 5 and you give me £5,000. And he was too scared to, well, all right, I'll do that. You won't. How you fat bloody, you won't run. So anyway, next day, I'm out on the road. So I'm thinking 5,000 there, and I'm thinking, well, we'll get some other sponsors around it and promote it and whatever. So I locked myself into running 5 marathons in 5 days, and I had a period of about 3 months before I had to get ready. Well, before I could sort of get down for the weight I was. So I just went running every day, and I started running around a block. Then I made it 2 blocks, then I made it 3 blocks, then I made it 4 blocks. Then I got up to 15, 16 mile a day, then pushed it right up to about 20 mile a day before. Then I think I run 2 or 3 marathons before, probably a week apart or something before I decided to do the 5. Well, I don't think I ever run a full marathon. I think I got up to about, what is it? It was 24, it was 42K, whatever it is. I'd say I'd run some 35Ks or something, because I didn't want to run a whole marathon then, see what it's like. So
Jesus.
So I ended up running, 5 marathons in 5 days, and end up getting, I won't say the figure, Des might end up in jail. It was money from over in England, righto. It was English money he got. He can't get into trouble here because it's not Aussie.
That's right. I know what you're saying.
I don't know how much he bought back,
Yeah. Mate, that is...
So we end up...
that's just... Mate, you know what? When you say we need some money for sponsors, why don't you do something?
Yeah.
You don't throw your toys out the cart.
No.
Well, I will.
So
will you watch this?
Yeah. So anyway, it ended up... we ended up earning enough money to pay for Des to come over.
You run the 5 marathons. was it worth it?
Yeah, my word it was. Des come over and he's killing them. You know, we got him in a nice little village. He loved it. He loved being over there. He liked the fans. The fans were all keen on him, and he's you know, and he's absolutely killing them. Then this particular day, we're playing at Hull, and it was like you remember. You're playing it in the winter back then.
Yes,
You're not playing
winter
it in
season,
the winter. So it was right in the middle of winter, and we go out and we're playing Witness, and I think at half time the score was, I think we were in front 4-2 or 6-2 or something, and because it was -3 or 4, the wind was just howling up the thing, you know.
Yeah, the old boulevard was.
Yeah, there's water, you know, an inch right over the field. It was freezing. So Des comes in. He's sitting in the corner, and I look across, and this is without exaggeration. He's like that, you know, and he's shaking. And I'm, what's bloody wrong with Des? And I said, Doc, come here. I said, what's wrong with Des? He said, he's got hypothermia, mate. He said, that's what's wrong with him. I said, can it hurt him? He said, can kill him. And I said, oh, geez. I said, all right, I'm going to see the referee, see if we call the game off. I said, we've got players in there, you know, hypothermia and whatever. And he said, we'll have to see the coach on the other side, and he's got to agree to call it off. So I went and seen him, and he said, no, we got the win second half. So I said to Des, mate, you can't go back out. He said, I'm going back out, Royce. I said, mate, you can't go back out. The doc said, he said, I'm going back. I don't give a what you say. I'm going back on the field. And that's his attitude, you know. So all the big boys were all right. You know, blokes carrying a bit of body fat, they were all right. All the skinny fellas, they were doing it tough because no body fat, see. So Des goes back out, plays the game. We finished the game. I don't think the score changed. I think it was just, you know, both sides were too cold to do anything. But Des was buggered then for, I'd say, the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Really?
He played, but
it wiped him.
No, he wasn't like, he was just murdering them. And that probably 5, it probably could have even been longer than that. He had a 6-week period where he was just, well, he wasn't terrible, but it wasn't a Des Hasler that carves you up, you know.
Yeah.
He was just doing his job and getting it done, and that happened. And I think we finished about 9th again that year, and I got no doubt at all if Des had played, we would have finished in the top 6 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was, but it was, he entertained the crowd at the start of that year and the back end of that year. Like, they loved him. It was one of the better things I've done for English football anyway. Yeah.
Well, you return a few years later. You coaching me at St Helens. It was a funny old crew. Some characters within that team. What did you make of it when you landed at Saints?
That was probably, I was only there a bit over a year. That year was the best year of my coaching. When I say coaching, I went to Hull, I wasn't ready. I went back to Penrith, I probably wasn't ready. The start of it, then you know, then when I got to the back end of it and started to sort of, you know, realise what you're doing, it was sort of over. And then after spending a little bit of time with Tim Sheens, I really thought, you know, well, a lot of time with Tim Sheens, I really thought I was ready to coach, and I enjoyed that year at St Helens. I loved it. It was just really enjoyed going to work every day, training with blokes who were super professional, wanted to learn, always wanted to get better. And mate, without being rude, between blokes like yourself, Paul Wellens and Robes, when you got leaders like you blokes, I see the current Penrith side, you know, they got good leaders, very similar to you blokes, all had good leaders, and it was a job I enjoyed like none other, and I still think if we hadn't lost sort of 3 backs in the grand
we should have won it,
final,
mate.
yeah,
The injury gods destroyed us that day. We were flying, and we lose 3 outside backs in the space of about 6 minutes, with about 25 minutes to go.
No, and then so we get beaten. But I mean, you never know whether you would have won or lost. But I thought I was confident in myself sitting in the box. I wasn't happy for certain parts of the first half because we seemed a bit scared to probably do what we normally do. But after that period, we were on fire. Yeah, so we lost a few players. So mate, that was as far as coaching goes, and even the other day when we just went back there to see Paul again, and you know, Robes come and see me about 4 times, you know, and I just continually run into players that, you know, old blokes we used to see and everything. It was a fantastic 9 or 10 days. Yeah, it was good.
It was well, I really enjoyed it. I learnt a lot from you, and some of the things I picked up that always doing the skills to start a session, that was big. Yeah. And I really enjoyed our time together. A funny story I got from one of the lads at the Griffin.
Go on.
Said that you came to the Griffin, and some of the to meet your crew of mates that you'd met over in St Helens, and the lads were there as well. So it's not like, well, when I say the lads, that some of the players were there, and we were never trying to disguise it that we were out. And apparently you've turned around to one of your friends and said, like, tell you what, if anyone stinks a piss tomorrow at training, they're not playing this weekend. And then one of them's gone to you, well, what happens if James Roby stinks a piss? And you said, I'm not going to go anywhere near him.
That's right. He won't get smelt.
He's a good player, Rose, isn't he?
He's a brilliant player.
I'd have loved to have seen him come over here.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I reckon he would have been brilliant here.
Yeah.
He had all the things that, you know, and one of them being pace. You know, I mean, you can't beat speed. You know, and he had a skill level to go. I remember saying to him, "Do you have a kick?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, you are now." That was, you know, after I'd been there, put him in the kicking thing. He just took to it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He jumped out of dummy half, kicking the ball. Bloody, you know, just brilliant player. Whatever you ask of him to do. Then I remember Robes on another day. He played. It was a short turnaround, you know. I think we played on a Sunday and we were playing on a Friday or something like that. And the week before, he'd made, you know, his 50 tackles like he makes every time. He run the ball bloody 20 times or something. And I said to him, Robes, he turned up Monday morning. I said, mate, just do a circle out and go home, and I'll see you the captain's run. I said, just relax, go home, never put out. That's not how I work, mate. He said, that's not how I work. I said, he said, I can't do that. I go home. You don't see too many players say that, mate. He wouldn't take time off to just get over recovery. He said, I don't operate that way.
Yeah. He's a different breed, James Roby. Yeah. He's got some ticker as well.
Yeah.
Like, he's got some heart. Yeah. The funny thing about you coming, that was the year I was coming over, and you were trying to convince me to stay. You had the Tigers staff as well, didn't you? Didn't they used to mess? Because I was speaking with the Tigers. Weren't they messaging you asking for what my sizes were so they could get me fitted out?
Oh, idiots. Yeah. Well, mate, yeah. Well, again, mate, I'm not trying. You always, your style of footy was, I didn't want to lose, you know, because at the time, you know, you're still running the ball a lot of metres for me, and you were bringing that second option as a ball player into, you know, playing one or two off the ruck, you know. It just brought so much, give you so much more variation. And as I said, your attitude to, earlier on about your attitude, you know, having, as I said, we're having the three of yous there, leaders. It was, you know, it was just, it's what I didn't want to lose. But anyway, you didn't care. You give me the one finger and said, see you later. Jumped the fence.
Fancied like an extended holiday.
Getting the big cash.
Please.
Mate, was what I've always wanted to ask you a thing. It must have been how your sides were playing, because when you originally come over, you were playing reasonably similar to the way you did at St Helens, but then all of a sudden, the following year, well, I don't know what's the following year, but at a later stage in your career, you were used more of just a yardage man.
Just coaches.
Just
coaches. Yeah, just coaches,
okay,
changing
fair
play.
enough,
Yeah. Just wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that ball playing, I think we probably overused it and then underused it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah,
I think Yowie at Penrith, I think he's got the mixture.
he's got it spot on.
Yeah.
But he's got good players around it to make
Yes,
it work,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's another
You
variation.
saying you didn't?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Gotta
Picking up on fucking hell. Edit. No. He's got some very. Well, we didn't have Nathan Cleary. You piece of shit.
Trying to get a little bit of payback.
Yeah. Just on that, what do you make of the current Penrith team? Like, what's it like for you as the one of the the first Premiership winner there, person that's seen them win wooden spoons. You've coached there. You've got this dynasty now. What do you feel when you watch that team?
I just even love watching them train. I watch them train, and the effort they put in is outstanding, and they're always doing, always doing a lot of, skills and drills and whatever, or whether it's a hard fitness centre. It doesn't matter what it is. They'll have a bit of music going, but they'll be getting flogged, but they're enjoying it. They've got a bit of music going on. It's not like a chore for them. It's not like they're going there, like I remember, the old days or something, you'd be thinking, well, I've just finished work, now I've got to go to the bloody train. Oh, they'll flog the hell out of us today, and whatever, and I'd imagine some players or people would think when they go on the train today, oh, geez, I hope we're not going to get flogged. The Penrith boys don't seem to worry about it. They just seem to turn up. They love what they're doing. They got a bit of music going in the background, whatever. They love what they're doing. The leaders just lead them off, and that's just what we do, and that's what we love doing. And they just seem to really enjoy all parts of it, And that's what I like about them. It's not a chore. It's just the game day obviously comes on and they go up to another level, but it's not like it's overdone. But the only thing that does worry me is at some stage, and there should be some ruling on it, but a lot of the players now, like every year they lose 3 or 4 players. I think if you go back to the year they got beaten in the grand final, I think out of their top 30 they've lost about 20 players or something, and now they're even over the last year or two, they're not only taking players out of the top 30, other clubs are coming along and purchasing players that are not even in the top 30, but they're players they think so they're losing a lot of players that they've put a lot of time into, that they've had in their pathways and everything coming through and educating them and getting them ready to play, you'd think at some stage it just might catch up for maybe for a year here, maybe for a year there. I'm not quite sure, but at this stage, they look as good and as positive as ever. But at some stage, I think there should be some reward for bringing players through. And
I agree.
And a lot of it was, I think they were always talking about, if you buy a player, you're going to get extra more money. There are heaps of different rules. I think they should come up with something that, they know better about than what I'm talking, but I think there's got to be something coming up where you get rewarded for putting a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of coaching expert. Like Penrith is the biggest junior league, obviously, so they've got a lot of players there, but some stage they've got to get rewarded for being the biggest junior league and doing what they do.
Well, because they put a lot of time and resources into it. It's not just we've got the biggest, so we're necessarily the best. No, we've got a
100%. And they work it really well. And they've got a lot of staff. They pay a lot of money to do it. So I think there should be some reward along the lines that in the end makes other clubs actually go out and start promotion, get to the schools, get to wherever, and try to get, rather
than just let Penrith do all the hard yards and then No, I agree, Royce. It's something that I think needs to be addressed because it's not fair on. Well, when you say it's not fair on Penrith, they're getting the success, but then it makes it even more challenging for them.
Look, I understand a lot of other clubs are probably doing things that I don't know about and all that too, but there's got to be some reward even for them clubs.
It's not just for Penrith, it's for any club. No, I agree. Royce, we do 4 questions for each and every guest. The dream spine, you 1, 6, 7 and 9.
Penrith's current.
With you instead of Mitch Kenny, or?
No, I just didn't make it. I'm reserve.
So you've got Edwards, Luai, Cleary.
Mate, the reason I say it, rugby league is like anything else. It's like, it's like the new car you get up the road. It goes better and better than the car the year before, all the sports people, get the swimmers in the swimming pool, they're all swimming quicker times, they're all doing everything. So if you ask me who's the best spine, the one last year's grand final is the best spine.
I like that.
It's just life. Doctors are doing better things. Everything's getting better. So I'll just go with it. And I can't get any backhanders from any of my old footballers neither.
Mate, you know what? I would never do it. Like, when people say you dream 13, because people take it way too personally. Oh, you left me out. Fucking hell.
Well, I just picked the best ones.
Fair enough. If football didn't exist, Royce, what do you think you would have done?
I was a greenkeeper out in the country, and
like a gardener.
Well, greenkeeper, look after bowling greens and golf courses and things like that. So I'd imagine it wasn't for football, I'd be I would have tried to be a cricketer. I would have tried to be a wicket keeper, but I don't think my batting ability or my wicket keeping ability would probably get me into too many sides. So I think I'd be playing an old frustrated wicket keeper out in the bush somewhere, and on the middle of the week I'd be mowing bowling greens or golf courses. That's all.
Fair play. A sliding doors moment in your life where you think about the other thing happening.
Again, explain to me the sliding door. I thought you walked through them. But anyway, carry on.
You do, but sometimes you miss them. So say for me, if I'd have stayed in England, so a decision that if it had gone the other way, if you'd have gone the other way.
If I went the other way, it's not the way you went. So, well, the biggest sliding, well, put this, but the biggest sliding door for me, it might be the wrong way around, is when Barry Rushworth, who I spoke about earlier, rung, Len Stucker rung Barry Rushworth and asked, was there any good players out in Group 10? And he said me. And if Lenny hadn't have rung me, the biggest thing I would have tried to get a run at South.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't happened, I would have went back to the bush. I wouldn't have come back again. I'd already been twice. I wouldn't come back again. I would have entered the bush and been probably a captain coach and a greenkeeper and a captain coach. So my sliding door was that Lenny Stacker, who was my first coach, who gave me my first game, was a great coach, a bit before his time, and that'd be my sliding door, if that made any sense.
It did. Finally, the most interesting person you've met.
Oh, bloody you could be that.
If
you change it to different.
Do you know what? I've not brought this up, but one of my favourite things up coming into training. Do you remember the thing me and Louis used to do to you, where we'd look up and throw the ball back to you in the middle of a drill, but we'd look above your head and then throw it at your knees, and you'd be like, you'd be always blown up. Every session, I reckon I got you. Every session.
It wouldn't be too hard. But yeah, the most probably interesting would be Tim Sheens.
Yes. You know what? I thought you were going to say him.
Tim was always looking for some advantage, something new, something different. Always after. Very honest man, very fair man. But it was always looking for something new to give you an edge, to get somewhere. As individual, like I remember Tim coming to me, Royce, if you're going to get to the next level, we've got to, fitness-wise, we've got a thing called Eat to Win diet, We're
going to do what?
It was an Eat to Win diet.
Eat to Win diet?
Yeah, it was called Eat to Win. It was Natural Over, the good tennis player. Matuna Natural Over, yeah. So
Eat to Win diet?
It's an Eat to Win diet she used to use, and Tim was always reading, looking for advantages, especially like Tim brought a lot of skills into the game. Like it was before people actually did skill. You do your running, you do your ball work, you do your weights or whatever. But Tim started skills before I'd ever seen him, and he got little skills and drills going all over the place and do them. So he's always looking for the advantage. He would have dietitians coming to the training well before anyone else was doing it. And trying to get ways of doing this. He was around about the time with a few others that started to bring in the weights, and so he's always looking for advantages. Like as I said, dietitians, doctors, you know, physios, always looking for something. He was always looking for an edge that could help you win. So
we spoke to him on this podcast, and he was just like a fountain of rugby league knowledge, and somebody that just like loves the game.
Yeah, so he was always into that sort of thing, always looking for an advantage, and that's why he's so successful as a coach and for so long.
Yeah. All right, Royce, we'll let you get back to Royce Simmons' Palace.
Main Street Gooloogong.
Main Street Gooloogong. I really appreciate this, Royce.
Thanks, mate.
It's been a pleasure to call you a coach, but more importantly, a friend. And I think what you're doing in the dementia space and trying to help people is very commendable, and you're attacking it the right way. You really are. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure our listeners will take a lot from this, and
I think the listeners will take a lot for it if you don't cut out the times I got on top of you.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that Mad Monday?
Do you
remember that Mad Monday and I had you on my shoulders?
Yeah.
Might happen again.
What about? I'd walked into the bar. You listening out there?
Sure.
Yeah. I walked into the bar like we got beaten in the grand final, so we're all disappointed, everyone. So I went back with them, had a few drinks, and I thought, I'll let the boys go. They want to be on their own. So I went back home to bed. Then I woke up, next morning, it was about 10. I thought, better go and see how the boys are going, see that everything okay. So I walked down into one of the nice bars down at the middle of St. Helens, and anyway, I run into a couple of blokes there I knew. You want a drink? Yeah, give us a beer. And anyway, I got the beer and was standing there having the beer. I just put the first mouthful to my mouth. Dancing comes here, hits me with a full-on tackle, honest to God, right in the middle of me back. Honest to God. You could have, mate, honest to God, you could have fed a Jatch cracket into my arse. My arse was going like that. My arse was going like that, it was.
I picked you up as well, didn't I?
Honest to God.
They were good times.
Yeah, Jatch cracket, you could have fed it straight into me ring.
I was just saying hello. I was surprised. I was happy you'd come. You'd come back.
Yeah.
I was a bit annoyed you'd gone for a sleep, but
well, you let me know all about that.
All right, Royce, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
I hope it wasn't too much stop-start.
No, it was perfect, mate. It really was.